And now here is Paul A. Ibbotson, the czar of radio coolness.
All right, radio listeners, today we're with a return guest in Doug Giles. Doug Giles is a speaker, he's a columnist, he's an author, he's a rabble-rouser of all kinds of intellectual thought. And Doug, we'd like to welcome you back to the Conscience of Kansas radio program.
Paul, it's always been a pleasure, man. I enjoy Kansas. I enjoy your radio show because you know what? You don't play around, and that's the kind of radio show host. It's the kind of folks we need. You know, everybody says, well, you know, we shouldn't talk about religion and politics. Listen, today is the day. If there was ever a day, Paul, to have a show like yours where we talk about religion, we talk about politics, because if not, we're screwed.
Well, I agree with you wholeheartedly. And it's one of the things that has drawn me to your work as well. We had the fortunate opportunity at Kansas State University not too long ago in time to have Doug Giles come down and speak, and I got to meet with you in the studio, and I knew right away, Doug, there's the real deal. And that was before you came out with this book, Raising Righteous and Rowdy Girls. Unbelievable, great book. And I take the honor of having the most kick-butt book review on Amazon for that book, Doug. It is.
Yeah, we appreciate that. And, you know, Raising Righteous and Rowdy Girls was first rejected after it was purchased by Thomas Nelson. They said, well, you know, our book sales aren't really that hot, and we're kind of in the red now, so we're going to just cut you. We're going to pay you a kill fee. And then we tried to sell it again, Paul, and people said, you know, who's he? He's not Dr. Phil. He's not Oprah. He's not a pediatrician. What does he know? And then my daughter, Hannah Giles, her infamous Acorn video sting was released on the public's noggin on September 10th, 2009, and then publishers started knocking on my door to want to know what I put in my kids' drinking water, because Hannah and Regis are complete, you know, rock stars that love God, and yet at the same time they have no problem at all defying stupidity. Anywhere it pops up, it's ugly, gnarly head.
Well, you know, absolutely. And in this world, folks need to take a look at what they're doing to their children when they're raising them, how they set them up for life. And, you know, you came back with another book here. It's really interesting, called Raising Boys Feminists Will Hate. And I can so identify with this, Doug. You know, I came 5 years. I got my PhD in sociology. 5 years around radical feminists, these people that wouldn't even look at me. You're going down the hallway. These people, these women that hated me for my anatomy differences, they hated me for my ideological belief system, my faith. I was bringing people on the radio such as Doug Giles and Mark Rudolph and other people that were talking about the value of men. And this book, I mean, again, you're not pulling any punches.
Bro, the fact that you have different plumbing than those feministas makes them radically and fundamentally hate you, because you and I, Paul, because we're Y chromosomes, we're the cause to these lesbians, these radical feminists. We're the cause of all the ill will that's happening in this planet. And you know what? I wrote this book, Paul, for the parents who are looking out there, and they're seeing the metrosexual little dandies out there in culture, and they're thinking, you know what? I don't know if I really want my kid to be like Adam Lambert. I think I want my kid to be like Clint Eastwood, like John Wayne, a boy in the classic sense of the word, who doesn't have to apologize for his masculinity, who doesn't have to apologize for the testosterone-laden fog that God made him to dwell in, that are providers, protectors, hunters, and heroes, and don't want the feminista bastards to grind them down. Here's a challenge to the Kansas state listeners. Why don't you feminists, long-tooth, stretch-pants feminists, invite me in for a debate on the role of masculinity in the culture? I would love to take you on. You can stack that place full of just nasty, gnarly, coffee breath feminists, and let's go to a debate about the role of masculinity and how it blesses culture throughout world history, and how you guys are going to wreck our society with your misandry, your man-hatred.
Absolutely. You know, I need to pull up and send you some of the emails that I got when we had you on there at K-State. And because we got them. I mean, you know, folks, whether they were PhD candidates like myself that excommunicated me for real this time kind of thing, or whether it was the professors as well, because they didn't want to hear that at the university level. And now that we're here on the Big Talker here on the Patriot, we're just hitting more people with that idea. And we're looking at Fort Hays State University. These college students, I care about what happens to the people in my state. I care about what happens to the culture. And even though here in Hays, we're in our Western Command, which takes us a little bit closer to Denver, Colorado, I'm not having any altitude problems here in my location.
Yeah, altitude problems. Hey, what's funny is that Barack Obama, he's a male that feminists love as opposed to a man that feminists hate. He didn't have any problem with the altitude in 2008 in Invesco Field when he gave that, Greek pillared acceptance speech for the DNC. What a bunch of nonsense. Instead of he's unprepared, instead of he doesn't have his lover, the teleprompter, I'm all out of love and I'm so lost without you. I think that's what he's saying after the debate last night to his teleprompter. Instead of people just owning it, just saying, listen, this guy is completely out of his league. He's a failed Staples store manager talking to a Bain Capital exec and being chastised for screwing our nation for the last 4 years. People make excuses that he has thin air, and it's the guy who's full of so much hot air. Al Gore is the one who's the chief proponent of making an excuse for our poor, pitiful little president. Bro, I'm telling you, Paul, we've got to get men back in office. A complete contrast from Mitt Romney and Barack Obama. You see a statesman, you see a gentleman, you see a successful man who is nothing. This guy, Paul, makes Howdy Doody look like Slash from Guns N' Roses. He's so squeaky clean. And then you got Barack Obama, a failed Marxist socialist who's driven our economy into the dirt and made us vulnerable on a national security level and on an economic level that I don't think America has ever seen. It's time for America, it's time for Kansas to show up at the polls, to vote, and to convert everybody they can between now and to sanity instead of the insanity, which is Barack Obama.
Yeah, absolutely. People have to wake up and open their eyes. And I love the quotes at your website. And folks, we have a permanent link up at IbbitsonUSA.com, our master website of superior conservative values, for ClashDaily.com. ClashDaily.com is the website. Doug Giles is the overlord of a great website with a lot of good thinkers, a lot of things happening. I look up at the top, and there is Barack Obama, the poster boy for pitiful in his image, and you've got their first debate. Obama looked like me the first time my mom caught me with weed, and that's a coffee spiller.
Barack Obama looked like Michelle walked in on him while he was on a Asian porn site. But I think maybe it's like me the first time my mom caught me with weed. What leader of the free world? What man? When we're talking about raising boys that feminists will hate and turning them into providers, protectors, hunters, and heroes, what man especially a president? What president holds his head down in shame while another candidate is addressing him? That's ridiculous. It's rude. It's shallow. It's weakness. The only thing that I can come up with, Paul, is what Dennis Miller said, is that he thinks that Obama had a new belt buckle teleprompter, and that's why he was looking down so much.
Well, it's a product of the life that he has led and the life that he has had as president. He hasn't been tested. He hasn't been challenged. He hasn't had anybody in his face trying to call him out. And he's had people, make an excuse for him and carrying the water. I think that's sort of the problem that happens if you are raised with this feminist mentality that you shouldn't be a leader, that you shouldn't be a provider, that you shouldn't stand up and have values, that you shouldn't be prepared to face opposition. I mean, what's the life for a young male that is raised with this feminist mentality? What's going to happen to him in life?
Well, he's going to get steamrolled as soon as he leaves mommy's house at the age of 50 and waddles out into the real world. And, just the way, like you said about Obama, going back to the debate reference and how he's been coddled. Mm-hmm. He hasn't not only been not challenged on his abysmal record, but he's been coddled and fawned over by a bunch of Obama-ogling droogies. And now all of a sudden you have him, getting the the cold Old Spice, to the cheek by Mitt Romney, a guy who's done due diligence and has his, whether you like it or not, you've got to be able to say, listener, that Romney came ready to play, and Obama, he coasted in. And you know what? Obama's world met real world, and we have real leaders now that's challenging his feckless leadership. In my book, Paul, Raising Boys That Feminists Will Hate, I've got 6 things that boys are supposed to be according to the Scripture, if we can bring the Bible into this, is that they're born to be wild, they're born to be leaders, they're born to cultivate. And the point that I want to make now is in regards to Obama's record. God said to steward the earth and make it prosper and exert, rule over it and bring the beast and all that it has under the dominion. In other words, when we're given a responsibility, God just not only says, here's leadership. Obama, okay, you got leadership. You fooled us, you conned us, you got leadership. Now, with that leadership, bring America to where it's more of a blessing and further in its place in the world and where it benefits the people. He's wrecked the dorm room. Instead of here's the point I'm trying to do. If parents have a son, they give him responsibility, and the responsibility might extend to their dorm room or to their bedroom or to their backyard. And it's supposed to be left and kept in better fashion than they received it. Obama was given the reins to the United States of America, and he's driven this nation economically and from a national security standpoint into a ditch.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And it's a ditch that it's going to take a lot of hard work to get out of. And if we have to go through another 4 years of it, I don't know where we're going to be at. And
some of this stuff, I hate to sound like a gloomy little monkey and make Van Gogh seem like a rodeo clown, but some of it might take the better part of half a century of a century. If Obamacare is not repealed, and Romney's in office, and he didn't do that his first order of business, then this nation could be screwed, and we could be in Euro-socialist disaster. And if people think that the form of health care and governance is groovy that Obama is peddling, take a look across the pond and see how our European cousins are doing as far as their health care. It sucks with a capital S.
Well, yeah, of course it does. And the idea that we need to follow suit with them is insane. As America is a special country with exceptional people, and it comes from those values, those Judeo-Christian values. And that's,
you know what, just like Dinesh D'Souza said in the movie 2016, Obama's not an American. He doesn't have American exceptionalism. He's an American by birth. I'm not saying that he's a Kenyan or anything like that, even though his publicist did use that in pitching some of his books back in 1991, but that's another interview, Paul. But what we do have with Obama is America's not exceptional. He says, hey, we're no more special than Greece is special. Hey, really, Obama? Paul, correct me if I'm wrong. Have you ever heard of the Greece dream or the Mexican dream or the French dream? No, it's the American dream. People dream about what we have here, and he's an anti-colonialist. He wants to not only redistribute wealth, but redistribute power, and that power that America has to third world countries. And you know what? It's just time for him to go. It's time for him to lead, and maybe he needs my book, Raising Boys Feminists Will Hate, for him to come to scratch a little bit more. Romney is in the place that he is because he's got a rock-solid record of being able to run huge businesses in the Olympics. Obama's where he's at because community organizers have put him forth, and he wrote 2 books about himself, and that's it. And that is not leadership. That's not what it takes to run this incredible nation.
Well said. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been speaking with Doug Giles. He is the author of the new book, Raising Boys Feminists Will Hate. We have it linked up at IbbitsonUSA.com. Buy several copies of it, folks out there in Radio Land. Send it to your friends. Send it to your enemies. Tell them it was my idea. I'll take the heat on that. Doug Giles, as always, we want to thank you for coming on the program and remind folks to really check out ClashDaily.com. You've got a lot of stuff going on there. People gravitate towards your books, Doug, because people want to hear and want to learn what free thinkers and people that aren't afraid to say it how it is. And I hope that your books will create and help create more children out there through parents that do their job, that do the same, because we need more of it here in America.